skipped ahead. We also have our service animal relief area that is under construction. That will be done this fall. We have a couple of bids that are going to be coming up, and we'll have some more information on that in a future slide. But we have the East Public Parking Garage and the Employee Parking Garage. We also have a snow removal equipment building that's to replace the existing old ARF station where we store some of our equipment, and then the North GA apron rehab. So that will be fall in 21 and into 22. One of the things that we do is we have a customer facility charge. That is the fee that gets charged to people when they rent a rental car. In the past, it was less than $2, and we increased it knowing that we need to make improvements to our rental car facilities. And now we will be increasing it again. It's an incremental increase. So we're going from $325 to $425. The rental cars are supportive of this, and we are required to give them 90 days, which we have done. And the increase will go into effect on September 1. And then all of those fees are used to pay for rental car facilities. So in this case, it'll be used to pay for the new consolidated rental car facility when that comes online. I did want to touch on the Murgoitio Property discussion that the city has been having. I thought we might have people here today. It does not appear that we do. But just to recap, I think we sent some information to the commission about this, but we purchased the property in 1992 as part of our noise mitigation plan. We did not use federal grants for that. And we sold the property to Parks and Recreation in 1998. We put some restrictive covenants on that property, basically saying that it couldn't be residential housing, but that's not a federal requirement. So that could be changed by the city at a future point in time. There are no federal restrictions on the use of that land. One of the other things that we've been working on is some development of non-aeronautical property. We did a request for expressions of interest. We had 7 proposers. We did interviews with the top 3, and we selected Adler Industrial. They are probably the largest industrial developer here in the Treasure Valley. They have great experience. And so we have designated them as our preferred respondent to our request for information. And so the next step is to go through the due diligence process that includes things like environmental, geotechnical, design standards, some of those things. And then we will negotiate a master developer agreement with them for those properties.
Rebecca, that looks like a very large piece of property, isn't it?
There's actually 2, and I don't know if I can go back up here. Okay, that did not work.
Anyway, I've got it in my head, but how many acres are we talking?
So it's about 200 acres. So there's the area 1, and that's not all of the parcels in area 1, but there's a number of smaller parcels in area 1. And then the parcel in area 2 is more contiguous. That's a larger area where they could do larger buildings. So area 1 is a mix of smaller parcels, and then area 2 is one larger contiguous area. So,
and we own that property?
We do. We do.
And it's going to be an industrial type park? Industrial,
potentially some commercial, but mostly industrial, most likely. So this is the area along Victory Road, to the north and south of Victory Road, all the way over to Cole Road. And then the the area 2 is along Gowan, where Orchard Road is being rerouted.
Do we own all, I take it we own all the improvements as well, or are they?
Most of these parcels do not have improvements on them. Oh, okay. Area 2 is pretty much a blank canvas. Area 1 has more development in the area. It's utilities are close by, but most of these parcels are vacant. So the developer would be developing them and building buildings. So more to come as we get further in that process. Well, we had several exciting announcements and new service starts this year. A couple of the big ones were new destinations were Austin and New York. So we had ribbon cutting for the Alaska service to Austin and Chicago O'Hare. Those started the same day. And JetBlue, New York City started in July. This is our route map updated to show our latest service. You can see we have added substantial service reaching, into the East Coast of the country, all the way to Atlanta, which was a huge add for us. And then New York City, as well as, having added cities like Austin, Everett, and some of the California cities like Orange County and Palm Springs. So I think it was the last time we were here in June, we talked about whether or not Boise Airport was going to be a medium hub and when that transition would happen. And as luck would have it, I think maybe we jinxed ourselves when we said that we thought it wasn't going to happen, but that it could happen. The FAA informed us probably about a week or two after that based on our enplanement numbers in 2020, that in 2022, we will transition to that medium hub category. So basically, to be a medium hub, it's a percentage of the national total passengers nationwide. So what that means is Boise represented at least 0.25% of all the passengers nationwide started in Boise or traveled through Boise. And so that moves us into that medium hub category. One of the repercussions of that is that, and we talked about this last time, we may have to give up some of our federal grants because we've reached this new category. The perception is that increases in passenger facility charges would make up for the decrease in the airport improvement program funds. That won't be an impact for the first year, at least. That's what FAA has told us, possibly for 2. And there is an exemption that we're researching to see if that would apply. So more information on that will be coming. There are a couple of additional regulations. One of them that we've talked about is the nursing lactation room. And that is already in progress and under construction. The other one is a competition plan, an airline competition plan that basically says if you have 2 of your air carriers that have more than 50% of the market share, you must do a competition plan. And Alaska and Southwest combined to have 50.9% of our market share. So we will be doing a competition plan. They are rather lengthy. No one here has done one before. So we will be hiring a consultant to help us with that, but that looks at your air service recruitment, your incentives, but also your facilities and infrastructure to make sure that new entrants can enter your market if desired. So it will be there'll be some additional hoops for us to jump through, but we will do it and we will keep you informed as we go.
Rebecca, just quickly, where are we in the process of establishing our fee for the user fee?
The passenger facility charge.
That's right.
So I think I probably have a slide coming up on that. We implemented the passenger facility charge last year. There's a lengthy FAA process that you have to go through for that, consultation with the airlines, approval by the FAA of the project, and then you can start collecting. And we are collecting for specific projects. Once we have fully collected on those projects, we have submitted another application to FAA so we can start collecting on the next round of projects. And that was approved. And I can't remember if I have a slide in here about that or not, but if we do, we'll talk about it more. But we do have the next round of passenger facility charges in place, so we are collecting that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Rebecca, will we need to develop a new set of peer airports
We recently, I would say within the last year, modified our peer airports because we had grown so much. We used to compare ourselves to, for example, Wichita, I want to say, maybe Colorado Springs. And we did change our peer airports from an air service perspective. We did not include any medium hubs. We included, the last time we did a organizational assessment where we looked at our staffing and our structure, we did include Columbus, Ohio as a aspirational airport, you know, one that is a little bit bigger than us, that has also grown quickly. So I think it's probably worth revisiting. I think that some of the airports that we're still comparing ourselves to, Spokane and Reno, are still good comparisons. Tucson's still a good comparison. We're in the same region, approximately the same size. Interestingly, Boise in 2020 was bigger than both Spokane and Reno. So we were, while we transitioned to the medium hub category, we were not the smallest medium hub. There were about 4 or 5 medium hubs that were smaller than Boise. So we didn't just squeak in over the finish line. It was, we're pretty solidly in that medium hub category, and we'll see what happens in 2021. Although as we move forward, and I'll show you some slides about our passenger recovery, it leads me to believe that we will continue to be in that medium hub category. Interestingly, well, it was interesting to me. I don't know if it'll be interesting to you, but Austin, which has been a medium hub, transitioned into the large hub category because just the way the traffic has been developing, you don't have international traffic leaving some of those, you know, traditionally international airports, and their traffic has decreased, and places like Austin have exploded with new passengers. So
it just occurs to me that there might be some lessons learned from some other medium hubs. And, you know, we only look at our existing small hub peers.
well, that's how I learned that the FAA had published the list of medium hub airports, because I thought, oh, we're going to have to do a competition plan. I should go look at the list and see who else on there might have to do a competition plan. And I looked at it and I said, oh, they published the new list. We're not the smallest medium hub, because I knew we were going to be a medium hub, but I didn't know where on the list we were going to be. So that is definitely something that we will look at, is who else might be peers for us.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
Reno, Spokane, Tucson, are they medium hubs?
Reno moved into the medium hub category. I don't remember who else did. Spokane did not. Spokane is still a small hub. And I want to say Tucson is smaller than Spokane. Oklahoma City, I think, was smaller than we were. We moved above Oklahoma City and maybe Richmond. I can get the list to commission if you're interested in it. I do not have it memorized, but those are the ones that are standing out to me. I think Oklahoma City, maybe Charleston.
Thank you.
All right. We can continue on. If there are more questions, we certainly can discuss it further. This is a slide about our enplanements. I'm going to move this down so that way it's not in the way. So you can see we were in May, we were down 14%. In June, passengers were essentially flat. We had 1 fewer enplanement in June of 2021 than we did in 2019. So again, that's probably more robust than what our peers are seeing. And then you can see our passengers are down 52% over 2020 and 24% over 2019. So as a whole, these are our historic monthly passengers. You can see that 2021 is shaping up to getting back to where we were. These are our comparison airports that we just changed to. Again, Providence, Colorado Springs, Tulsa, Tucson, El Paso, Grand Rapids, Des Moines, Charlotte, you can see Boise and Reno, and this is the seats per capita. And now this is the origin and destination. So this is, I think, the question that Councilor Clegg was asking about when we look at our peer group. Again, you can see that in 2021, we are having, we're experiencing more passenger travel than all of our peers there. And also a very competitive airfare. This is our market share. Alaska and American each gained 1% of the share. Delta and other each lost 1%. And then as we look forward, which is based on the schedules that are available in the OAG, you can see that the number of seats continue to increase into summer and fall. I fully expect that we'll probably see some adjustments in December, but we are expecting that we will see increased passenger travel. Of course, that could change as things continue to change with the Delta variant and now new mask requirements and some of the other issues that we're seeing. It's still very much an unknown, but these are the seats that are available today, which generally transition to and translate to passenger travel. And do you want to touch on our upgrade program? So this week we issued our airport bonds. We had our bond ratings. Moody's assigned Boise an A1 bond rating and Fitch assigned Boise an A+ bond rating. We just completed the process yesterday and took orders for $71.3 million in bonds for both garages. The interest rate was 2.8%, and we will close on those bonds in August, on August 17th. They're 30-year bonds. 22 million are taxable and the rest are tax-free municipal bonds. And some of you have been on the commission long enough to remember that because airport bonds are backed with airport revenue, we do not have to go out to a referendum in the general public for a vote. So that's what allows us to do that. This is the public parking garage design. It's 5 stories, a little over 1,100 spaces. We'll have a 7-lane exit plaza and including a parking management office. We'll start construction on this project in the fall, and we think it will take about 18 months. We bid the employee garage at the same time, thinking that there would be some economies of scale. We can spread the overhead, mobilization, some of those expenses over 2 facilities. This project was scheduled to begin last spring, if you recall, and we paused it because of COVID. With the favorable interest rates, it made sense to bond this project as well and bid this project with the other parking garage. We think we'll get substantial interest, that it will be a very competitive project that will yield good bids. So we expect construction will start this fall and that the construction timeline on this particular garage will be 24 months. Our top 10 operating revenue and descriptions, there's really not anything that's too surprising here, I think. Operating revenue is up about 4%. And operating expenses are up about 12%. That concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
I was just curious on the disabled aircraft, are those general aviation or commercial?
Usually they're general aviation.
Okay, next on our agenda are commissioners' comments. We'll just go down the line, start with Bill. Do you have any comments?
Well, the only thing is that my daughter flew here for a long weekend last weekend on Southwest from Denver, and everything went smoothly. there was some confusion on my wife's part about whether she was allowed to go into the airport or not to meet them, and I think she did. That's it.
It was restricted previously, but with the new health order that came out, and I say new, back in the spring, passengers and meeters and greeters are allowed into the airport.
Just been trying to tolerate the record heat we've been having along with the smoke, and one observation, when we're down to one runway, with the increased use of the airport, it does make it rather interesting for general aviation from time to time. In fact, I kind of giggled after being routed around several different ways by air traffic control the other day. Being a lady that I'd like to talk to in the tower, I made the comment, she finally kind of apologized for sending me zigzagging around. I said, "It's gonna be a long summer," and she says, "It sure is."
Question around the estimated timeline on the two parking garages. Are those good estimates? Are you anticipating extensions because of supply chain challenges?
We're not anticipating them, but I would say anything is possible with COVID. We did allow, and Matt can speak to it if I get this wrong, he can correct me, but we did allow some extra time on the employee parking garage to allow them to work on one and then the other. So hopefully we can get some efficiencies that way. I don't
We
know.
met with a few general contractors, had discussions, and we anticipated. There was one on the parking office, we actually redesigned it. There was some delay of getting steel joists, so we went to a wood truss, redesigned it, and actually getting both so they have an alternative they can go either. But that was the only thing that we identified that was long lead or short supply. Everything else is pretty normal.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't traveled, so no experiential news to report.
I don't have a comment, but more of a question. I've had a couple of people ask about TSA with the increase in passenger travel. They commented that the line was to the ticket off in the ticket counters. Is that TSA able to staff up with the increased passenger travel?
The reports that you're hearing are true. Those of you who've been on the commission probably remember we expanded the checkpoint about a year ago, well, 2 years ago now, because I've lost a year because of COVID. But in 2019, we expanded the checkpoint and added a lane. And today, the number of passengers that are scheduled to fly out in those early morning hours between 5 and 7 exceed the number of passengers that can process through that checkpoint at that hour of the day. So as that time goes on, there starts to be a backlog and then it catches up. So that is true. I would say TSA is doing everything that they can. They're having the same struggles hiring people that we're seeing in other places. But in general, I think there's probably only been a handful of times where TSA has exceeded their standard, which is 25 minutes for waiting. So even though the line is long, it does move relatively quickly. In Boise, everyone lines up before the ticket document checker. And so you have one line feeding into all of those lanes. And so the line does go quick. There have been a handful of times if the machinery has gone down, if an x-ray has gone down, where they have exceeded that 25-minute time, but generally they are meeting that standard, which is still longer than most people are used to waiting in Boise. But during that time, that's just.
Is that 25 minutes a public number? Something that can be shared to have people catch the date? Or
Well, we do advise people to be here between an hour and a half and 2 hours ahead of time. They tend to still try to get here a little bit closer. I don't know if that standard is published on the TSA website. I suspect that it is. It's an industry standard. It's not specific to Boise.
Need a comment from down?
Couple of comments, just really excited about the industrial contract thing on that. I think especially as we move to a medium hub, it's going to be more and more important for the airport to maximize their revenue generation on the lands that they own. And so, one of the things as the city council member I focused on is activating industrial area capture. So, that's an exciting thing. I haven't traveled yet by air, so I don't have any comments. I do have a question actually as a follow-up to Jamie. What are the plans for screening area with the new concourse? Are we going to have a second screening area? I frankly hadn't thought about it until a couple of weeks ago.
So thank you for asking that follow-up question, because I should have mentioned we are in the process of having a contract for design of expanding that checkpoint. So that will be on our work plan for fiscal year 2022 will be the design. TSA has already ordered equipment for another lane. We just need to figure out how we're going to put it in there. And so we're going to look at, is there a short-term solution that we can do in the next year? And what's the longer-term solution? We are going to look at some different options, and we'll share those with you as we go through that design process.
Councilman? No, sir. All right. I have little to add other than the fact that it's nice to be back. I wasn't here in June, so this is my first meeting back. Did want to comment. I did fly to Seattle on Alaska, and it's always refreshing that Alaska is such a stress-free airline to engage. It seems like you come in, you walk upstairs, you walk out the plane, you get on, they're all happy. And it's a positive experience. You don't feel that you have on particularly any of the legacy carriers. None. So anyway, that's the only comment I have. New business.
All right, the next item that we have is Matt is going to share with you a project that we have been working on. As we've talked about previously, we have limited parcels available for development that I'm trying to share that. Is this sharing here?
Yeah.
Okay. We have limited parcels available for development, and we're trying to maximize the property that we have that has access to the airfield. And so Matt is going to walk you through each of these areas, and I will try to pull up the various diagrams that he has given me to share with you today. Yep.
We using our consultant that did our airport master plan, we've identified 4 areas for corporate or general aviation and hangar development, and we've expanded on those just basically before they didn't really show a lot of detail. But what we can do is right now we have about actually 4 private developers who want to build hangars. And we finally gotten to the point where we can say, yes, you can go here, this is what you put in. And I'm going to go through the 4 areas. This particular area is the future, well, here's existing T hangars, city T hangars. And this shows Orchard Street relocation. You might want to make that a little bit smaller. Otherwise, just scroll up. But anyway, this particular area shows the general aviation that can development that can occur in the future after Orchard Street relocation, which probably be around that 25, 26, 26, most likely. The main access would be here at Turbo coming in. And this is not fixed in stone, the type of hangars. We just showed a variety of hangars that could go in. Currently restricted right here to I believe we're going to be about a 78-foot wingspan Jeep 450 type aircraft. So we can get a pretty good sized aircraft in there. Anyway, this will be a future, we'll continue to develop this as we go along, especially with the Orchard Street. The next slide. The next area is the area adjacent to Firehawk and the former, soon to be former FAA Tech Ops building of Wright Street. Oh, I'm sorry, that's okay. This is actually a different area. This is area 3. On the north side, this is Idaho Helicopter Facility here. And our next year, we're going to be building, well, that's Al Scott. And this is all vacant right now, fairly open. We're going to be building next year, we'll be building this fall, this taxi lane, parallel taxi lane to Alpha here. And we have the ability to put in 3 large hangars. These are 15,000 square foot, I think that's 20, and that one is 17. This is, will become available this fall. This lease, they're going to give up this property just to the east of Idaho Helicopter. So we get, we're starting to work with the tenants here. They'll begin their design work. We'll have this taxiway done probably about early summer, and well in advance of them completing their hangar. And then initially, we will only have 2 spaces here because we have a tenant here, House of Hounds. And we kind of planned it that a long-term, they will probably vacate and we'll relocate them. But initially, we can build these 2 hangars and this one here. So that's pretty good options that we have there. And then given enough time, we'll relocate the House of Hounds, and then we'll put up 1 more site there. Go to area 2. See an alternative 2?
2C?
Okay, this is the one on the north side, just west of Jackson Jet and Firehawk. Currently, the FAA is going to be vacating this building right here, the Tech Ops building, and what time frame?
The end of this.
Okay, end of the year, and Jackson Jet has already made a commitment to build a hangar there, and then we can get that in there. And then Firehawk, their lease in this vacant area where they just park trucks expires, I believe, in 27. Yeah, somewhere in there, 27, 28, and we were planning on hangars in there. Could be 2 small hangars or 1 large hangar, we don't know. But right now, we're just kind of showing the alternatives. Okay, go to area 4, alternative 4.
I don't see a 4 here, Matt. I have 2C, 3M, and 1C. We looked at this one. You seen that one before?
Yeah, that was a iteration of that.
Let me stop sharing for a moment.
The next area that we're going to show you is just east of SkyWest, just east of the new ITD hangar. We're going to extend that taxiway lane out further to the east and pick up approximately 4 more hangar development sites there. We're nearly fully designed on that taxiway extension, and we'll probably bid it with that taxiway in November, and complete it, like I said, early summer. And we have a couple of tenants already getting some design work there for their new hangar.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
and Matt, if someone is interested in developing one of those hangar spaces, should they contact you or Amy?
Amy would be your point of contact, and kind of have a process that show what we, we're basically trying to get the highest best use of these properties, and then she can give you the lease terms and stuff like that. Potential tenants would understand what the costs are, what the requirements are for development.
Mr. Chairman, is there also infrastructure like fire and fuel and water and all these also being built out with that development?
The area that we're gonna look at, over there by ITD's new hangar in SkyWest, we're gonna extend the taxiway. There are already utility services in the area, but you obviously don't have to bring into the hangars or any fire services there. So that one's pretty easy. The area 3 that I showed you by the House of Hounds and Idaho Helicopter, once again, there's utilities right adjacent to it, so it should be fairly easy for them to develop. They'll have to do that development. We've got utilities at the edge of the site. And then Orchard Street will be a little bit more of a challenge. When that gets there, we'll have to extend utilities into that area, limited utilities. Well, it's vacant now. Okay, so that will be intense.
Like fuel for the aircraft?
Then we don't provide those. I mean, some tenants are choosing to put in fuel tanks, others are not. They can do it. They just have to meet the fire code and EQ requirements for that. There are no
I think I just figured it out on my
restrictions
own.
not to do it. Like ITD.
Thank you. All I needed to do was send you a text, so that way you would get up and come over here, and then I figured it out.
And that's probably, for most corporate hangars, unless they have a high volume, it's probably the best economic decision for them. There are a lot of liability things.
And if obviously all these are corporate hangars, if the developer wants to come in and build 2 hangars, is that an option? Or is this all?
That's an option. You should just bring it in. Right now, it seems like the corporate is they're willing to spend the money to build. General aviation, there isn't demand for space, but I don't know if the return on that's really there to what it costs.
Yeah, Alex, I can't get this to close.
But anyway, at that particular site, we had one
Why is
hangar
this
that's
not closing?
35,000 square foot, and there's actually 10 that we designed into those hangars. And another one was 17,000. Actually 2 at 20,000 and 1 at 13. And right now, the aircraft over there is designed for G650, so pretty good size aircraft. Up to
Oh, the mic's over there. Sorry, my file won't close,
it's on the memory stick too there.
but I can't get out of the screen. The usual escape, it's not working.
And that's on the realignment.
Yeah, and that's ACHD is doing the design work on that. And well, they've got a
Can we go down to this one?
environmental
And then there's a
right
couple
now,
that I want to
and
close.
engineering, I believe it's
Sorry, we could probably do it now.
I want to close
planned to
that.
construct in 2025, 2026.
Yeah, they could even be 2024, 2025.
Yeah, so 2026 is probably realistic.
Okay, that's the one I want.
And
What's the nature of the realignment?
Close.
This
This is the
current
one I
Orchard
share.
Street is a 2-lane road that just kind of snakes through that area, and they're basically moving the existing Orchard Street to the western edge of the airport property there.
Thank you.
And then putting a 5-lane road, and all the way to Gallon, and to that road that goes to the south.
Yeah.
It's like Hazen Station.
So that opens up a great deal of property.
Yeah, it basically opens up a great deal of property. Some of the property is restricted. There is some property over there that has historic landfill under it, so it's difficult to build, but the area I'm showing you has limited, has some capability we can build on it. Obviously, we have to see due diligence out there, but right now. Oh, here we go. This is the SkyWest hangar here, and the SkyWest has a contract with us. They are going to sometime in the future develop a second hangar. This is the new ITD hangar completed this spring, and this is actually the future consolidated cargo facility that we are working on right now. We're in design phase, about 60% design on that. Anyway, we'll extend this taxiway. We only got about 200 more feet to build, and then this is a large 35,000 square foot hangar. This is about 12, I believe, yeah, 12,000, and both of these are 20,000 that we could put just north side there. We are, and like I said, all the utilities in there. The airport will extend the taxi lane and a roadway over to this so that we have public access into that area. Yes, eventually, ultimately we will. Right now, it's been in our plan. UPS would like to expand, but they're limited or landlocked. FedEx would like to expand, go bigger aircraft, but they can't. And so we've identified this, we've worked with, and then we've been working with another cargo possibility up there too. So trying to put it all in one location. Interesting enough, in this part of our master plan, it does build out for the future going out to the third runway. So it does get that taxiway to here. Eventually we'll go all the way out, but it builds the first thing. And this is set up for 767s and MD-11 size aircraft, so wide body, big aircraft.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Man, I may have asked this before. If I have, I apologize, but the SkyWest hangar and the ITD hangar, do we own them and rent and lease it back to them, or how does that work?
The SkyWest hangar, they own the building, and they have a land lease.
SkyWest owns the building.
We actually own the building.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
They built it, but we bought it from them at cost and then we leased it back to them.
That's what I thought.
And ITD, we built it, we own it, and
We're leasing it to them.
leasing it back.
Would, just to follow up on that, the future build on any myriad of the hangars, is it going to be, what's the ownership structure?
Typically, it is private ownership on those. ITD, known quantity, SkyWest is a very large corporate entity. We'll enter into that. Possibly we own it there and invest in it, because this is a stable investment. But private hangars, we typically would shy away from let the private sector deal.
And then that improvement goes on the tax roll. Okay. There's always criticism about taking anything off the tax roll. That's just curious.
I think when we did the SkyWest hangar, I think Ada County agreed not to tax that building. They agreed not to implement that, and that was an option that they had. But I think for corporate, I don't think that would apply.
Anyway, these are the 4 areas, and we're sharing this with them, and some of them are kind of spoken for, but as new entrants come in, we say, here's a site that you could build a 20,000 square foot hangar or other type of development, but they just have an idea of what to do. And then if somebody wanted to put T hangars in this area, maybe they could come up with an alternative plan. They kind of have a square footage and how they're going to be in and out of there. So, that's kind of where we left it. We didn't want to design it for the people, but, for the different types of hangars, but we just want to give them an idea of what's available. Constantly have a lot of inquiries, but very few of those come to completion, but we do get a lot of inquiries. At least we can share this plans.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've sent several inquiries for development of private hangars. Amy, have you, any
We have
Contact.
quite a few people that we're working with and we're waiting on this information. So I have not been able to give this to any potential tenants yet because we're waiting to show it.
This is relatively new. We've been working on some different iterations. We want to make sure that we're putting the largest hangars in the sites where we can, because we don't want to put a 10,000 square foot hangar where we can put a 50,000 square foot hangar. And so Matt's been working with a consultant to come up with this plan. So that way we have what we think is the best possible option that gives us the most flexibility and maximizes our airfield space, because we don't really have that much of it left. And if we don't use it wisely, it will be gone even more quickly. So, but we will be ready to start sending this out and sharing this. As Matt and Amy both mentioned, we do have a few potential tenants, several that I think will be ready to start moving on these. I think we maybe have a letter of intent already on one of these parcels.
Matt, do we have a policy or some sort of document that states the position or the structure of leasing and building on the airport property, so that when someone comes to the airport, they know exactly that you're going to build it and do the improvements A, B, C, D. After 20 years, these are the options that are going to play out, so that it's just, a level playing field. So there's no, well, what do we do here? Oh, let's think about it and move it back and forth. Just as far as the structure that we have.
Yeah, Amy has a standard package you can give out, which, sample lease, terms of the lease, duration. A lot of there's quite a bit of flexibility. The term of the lease kind of dependent on their investment. More investment, generally longer the lease and more renewals. If it's a very simple thing, not a big investment, it would keep it short term. And then the rates are pretty fixed by market. And then each site's a little different, but we typically will kind of negotiate how much we participate in maybe staying in water line, depending on where it is. If there's water at the site, kind of let them take it from there. We try to kind of set it up for them so they can run with it.
So that's standardized as far as how you would get the utilities, so that we're not extending water for one person for one outfit to, close the deal, but not extending for someone else because, well, we just don't want to do it that way on this.
It varies a little bit, but it's fairly consistent.
It is fairly consistent. I would say that we would only add infrastructure if we have a future need for infrastructure in that area.
Okay.
So, or if there's a huge economic development reason that we might want to do that. So for example, when SkyWest built its hangar, it was a new facility over in that area that we wanted to develop further. And, it spurred, I think, over 100 jobs that were above the county median wage. And so there were reasons beyond the airport itself that we would invest in that parcel, where we wouldn't maybe do that,
Well, and that was a unique situation, which it was pioneering out on that area. And we wouldn't do that ordinarily
We probably would not do that today.
No, okay. But just as long as it's a set policy, so we don't get in trouble with favoritism claims.
We are required by FAA regulation to make sure that we treat our tenants equitably. So we can't treat, for example, let's take FedEx and UPS. We can't charge FedEx one rate and UPS the other. Our regulations dictate that we treat like tenants in a similar manner. So The airlines pay the same amount, the car rentals pay the same amount. We negotiate what those are, but we treat each group in a similar fashion.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thanks, Matt. Good. This is the time for public comment. Do we have anyone online that would like to join us?
I will look at the Q&A. There are no questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
under new business, I guess, wondered if you were going to talk about the precision propeller memo. And if not, I do have a question that was intended when I read this.
All right, I was not planning to discuss it because we sent it via memo, but I'm happy to answer questions about it.
Well, my only question is, where do we stand on this request that the airport waive its interest in favor of a bank, which sounds like subordination to me?
Amy can address that.
Members of the commission.
Sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Amy, can you come to the microphone and, or podium, there's no microphone.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we have historically subordinated in favor of a bank. We do take a look at the actual subordination document, and we make sure that the bank understands if there's a default, they become our tenant and they become responsible for everything with regard to the lease. But we have several of those documents. They're called a lot of different things, but we have several of them that we have subordinated.
Okay, yeah, I was, that's fine if they're gonna become the tenant. My concern was that if we did a total subordination, they could own the property underneath.
No, we make sure. Kelly will look at everything with a fine tooth comb, and they understand we're just subordinating our interest in the improvements, not the land.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else to come before us? All right, when is our next meeting? For the record?
It is, I believe, September 1, which is the Wednesday before Labor Day. Because Labor Day is late this year.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
A second.
Okay, we're adjourned.